AskReddit by Stolen Valor Slayer 69. What's the most wild statistic you've ever seen? In 1895, the entire state of Ohio had only 2 cars. Both cars managed to still smash into each other. Source: https://www.snopes.com/fact-check/only-two-ohio-cars-18955/closed bracket: a 1967 magazine advertisement. Sounds legit. The average drunk driver drives under the influence more than 80 times before being arrested the first time. That feels absolutely wild to me. That actually makes sense to me. Studies show distracted, cell phone driving is on par with low-level drunk driving, which is mostly fine when traffic is normal. The problem is when inevitably something unexpected happens, like a sudden break in front, someone cuts them off, etc. Or of course if they keep lowering their standards for how much they can drink and still drive to the point they are weaving in front of officers. Murder is the biggest killer of pregnant women in America. And that a large majority of that is domestic violence. The annual number of tobacco-related deaths around the world is much higher than the death toll since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic around the world. As of today, 6.9 million died in COVID. On the other hand, more than 8 million tobacco-related deaths have been recorded annually. Even if you just compare the deaths due to direct use of tobacco, 7 million, it would still be much higher. You can look it up through WHO website. Gotta say, ever since I quit, stats like these have become much more interesting. There are more combinations of shuffling a standard deck of cards than atoms in the Milky Way galaxy. You might say that. Actually twice as many. 52. Is
8065817517066885617408832778240883277824000000000000.
But humans can't wrap their heads around those numbers. Here is one way. Start at the rim of the Grand Canyon and walk. Take one step every billion years. Go around the earth, and when you get back to your starting point, put 1 grain of sand in the Grand Canyon and start the trip again. Once it's filled, Grand Canyon, from all those trips and grains of sand, you have to do it 437 more times to have the same number of years in total as chances at duplicating a shuffled deck of cards once a year. It's that large of a number. There has never been a duplicated property shuffled deck of cards. Only 10% of people who go to rehab stay sober. Seen it, lived it, totally true. My counselor told me it was 5%. I felt great about beating that statistic. Guess I should have felt half as good if twice as many people did it. Joe Biden's birth, 1942, is closer in time to Lincoln's second inauguration, 1865, than to his own inauguration, 2021. As we get older presidents, we certainly get some interesting facts. Joe Biden was born before highways. Globally since 1970, 29 people have survived rabies. It is very preventable, but is it still a death sentence to this day? I thought it was only one girl who was put into a medical induced coma. Do you have links? I'm lazy and you brought it up. 89% of all Japanese destroyers, starting with the Minakase class and ending with the Akizuki class, 121-136, were sunk during WWII, with 6-11 classes having a 100% loss rate. Matsuki, Hatsuharu, Shiratsu, Ayu, Asashio, Igumo, and the one-off Shimakase, and the lowest loss rate still being 50%, Akizuki Dart. This is the highest of any major navy that fought in WWII. For comparison, they were followed by Italy at 83%, 49-59, France at 80%, 35/44, Germany at 63%, 25/40, the Soviet Union at 43%, 31/72, Britain at 37%, 120/323, and the United States at only 15%, 94/613. Yes, 613. Murica. Additionally, the US Navy's Fletcher class alone had just a 9% loss rate, 19/175, with a handful more constructive total losses. Keep in mind this means the US built more destroyers of a single class from 1941 to 1945 than the IJN built total from 1918 to 1945, and more than any other navy's total destroyer force during the war besides Britain. Ah yes, a fellow WW2 nerd. Have you seen the loss map video of all sunken Japanese ships in WW2? You probably have a higher than average number of legs, fewer than the average number of nipples, and more than the average number of eyes. My stats professor used this to illustrate median vs average. It suggests that over half of our population do not have internal monologue. And I'm still shocked since then. I'm gonna be 100% honest, I'm pretty sure everyone has the same internal monologue but are horribly misunderstanding what the other person means. The average American household contains fewer than a dozen books. This is less wild since ebooks became so popular, but this predates ebooks. This is from the days when book meant bound paper and nothing but bound paper. That's really sad. 50% of doctors graduate in the bottom half of their class. What do you call the person who graduated bottom of their class in medical school? Doctor. More people have walked on the moon than have won Takeshi's Castle. This is probably the wildest statistic on here in my opinion. Also, Takeshi's Castle is one of the best shows ever. Cancer care. Only 30% of all treatments will have any significant effect. However, cancer incidences has the potential to decrease 50% just by taking preventative measures. Healthy weight, no smoking, no heavy drinking, etc. Yet 4% of cancer funding is on prevention and 96% on treatment. There's payoff. Cancer vaccines are in the pipeline now. 1 teaspoon of neutron star weighs about the same as the entire human population. Throughout most of human history, across the globe, the typical person had 6 children and 4 of them died in childhood. It only started changing with the Industrial Revolution, and even then only in Western Europe. In most of the world, birth rates and child mortality didn't start declining until well into the 20th century. That mosquitoes kills more people than all other animals combined. It's because of the disease they carry, such as malaria, dengue, yellow fever, etc. And it's only the females. The Jewish population of the planet Earth is 0.2%. That's 17 million out of 8 billion. There are more atheists on the planet than there are Jews. There is a video of a guy asking random people in the streets how many Jews they thought existed. People thought there were like 1 billion or 500 million. 3 out of 4 people make up 75% of the population. You liar. Globally, an estimated 1 in 3 women have been a victim of physical and/or sexual violence. I'd suspect higher due to unreported cases. Knoxville gets double the annual rain of Seattle. When it rains, it pours. I think Seattle has more consecutive cloudy days though, so the rain is more distributed throughout the year. That 20% of people between 18 and 35 believe the Holocaust never happened. This was recently though, and I did find it wild. Where 21%, or 43 million us adults, find it difficult to compare and contrast information, paraphrase, or make low-level inferences. https://userfacts.org/which-states-have-the-lowest-adult-literacy-rates. Well, if cognitive abilities like those are interrelated and normally distributed, then half are above and half are below average. If about 68% fall within a standard deviation of that average, we can call them functionally average. So 16% are one or more above average and the same amount are below. So 16% probably struggles by default. And this isn't exact science, so percent on the low end of average may struggle in one or more domain as well, making up the extra 5%. Systematically defunding public education probably helped. In America, on average a toddler shoots someone once a week. And unfortunately I think it is a bit higher, like one every 4 days. Someone should take the gun from that toddler.